dilemma with Group 1. A child is brought in by ambulance to your busy emergency department after a car crash. On examination, both legs have been severely crushed. The child is losing a lot of blood. This loss of blood has caused a low hemoglobin and requires a transfusion. The parents are Jehovah's Witnesses. Now we'll discuss the ethical dilemmas here.
Well, obviously the number one is that they're Jehovah's Witness.
And as we know from doing research, Jehovah's Witnesses do not accept blood transfusions, as they believe that if they are given a blood transfusion, they will be not accepted into the heaven.
And also it's communicated from their other, from the church itself. They'll be shunned from everyone if they do accept a blood transfusion because it's against their rules.
Did we find out if there was any other, like I was thinking, did we find out if there's any other way that they can like repay, like is that a sin that they can repay?
Actually it was, I have read somewhere that especially for an unconscious patient, and then she was given blood, and without his knowledge or without his consent, he could actually ask for forgiveness.
So if they're not aware of it,
but
they're just given it.
Usually they have cards, like say in their wallet, that says, I'm a Jehovah's Witness.
No blood.
But we have to consider that for our case here, it's a child.
Yeah.
So there is actually ways where they can ask for forgiveness.
The person would be expected to seek forgiveness from God for their action where they are responsible. But here, if the child is a child and she doesn't even know yet.
Yeah.
So in the nurse's case, when, like in our scenario, the way we acted it out was like there's no way that could happen, but I guess they would already know that they could ask for forgiveness.
But she couldn't ask for forgiveness because she's a child, and it's the parent's decision whether or not they have the blood transfusion or not. So the responsibility is on the parent, and they know if they know that they're going to get the blood transfusion, then they can't ask for forgiveness. But if they're given the blood transfusion without their knowledge, then that's what you're saying. Then they can ask for forgiveness for it.
And maybe if we could, if we use their argument that they would not take blood because it's life, and then we're saving life here. It's their child's life. This is still life.
Because ethically, the nurse's role is to save the child's life. So
what would you do? It's really difficult.
As a nurse, would you allow the child to die as a nurse?
Oh, jeez.
No. Personally, I would not. I would agree with the doctor, because if it was me on the case, on the real case, I would agree with the doctor, because knowing that the doctor would not commit any criminal offense, and then the doctor could defend me, right?
That you're acting upon under the doctor. But you also have to consider the future impacts of the child. So be disowned by the parent, disowned by their religion, become mentally unstable, and then wanting to commit suicide.
Because they've just been ostracised from everyone because of this blood transfusion. It's quite complicated.
Therefore, their physical, social and mental well-being has been destroyed. So as a nurse, we still have to... Could be destroyed.
So, but then in that way you could...
But then if the parents... Oh, sorry.
No, you're all right. I was just going to say you could, mediate almost and set up, awareness sort of thing.
With lots of cases happening like this right now, usually most hospitals have this Jehovah's Witness liaison or something, a committee for this, and so the committee could talk with the parents.
But if the parents are agreeing for the child to have the blood transfusion, then they're basically turning their back on their religion too. It's not all on the child. The parents probably won't disown the child, but
they'll
they're
suffer
basically,
it together.
because it's their whole core, your religion and your faith, your morals and your values are all wrapped up in that. So
it'll be better if they do it as a family, because there's not just one child on his own, whereas there's a family and they can support each other, so their mental well-being will be a bit better.
If they could keep a secret.
Yeah.
So you could support each
Yeah,
other.
well, that's it though. They could do it and not tell
But then,
anyone.
like, every time they would go to church, that would be
Yeah.
That
wrapping
feels
around in
guilty.
their
That would
brain.
be the
Yeah.
time they
that
could
feels
ask
guilty.
forgiveness.
So-
That would be the time they would ask forgiveness.
Excuse
Bless you.
me. Excuse me. I don't actually know what I would do in that situation because I do understand in some ways the religious aspect of it, but then my having children myself, I don't know if I could see a child die.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, no. Well, I'm not religious, so I'd be
No.
like, it's kind of hard for me to comprehend of believing not to do it in the best
Yeah.
interest of, like, you know, because if that was my kid, it would be like, do whatever you have to do. But it's hard for me to
but
say because
religion,
I
like
haven't
God
got a religious background.
rules everything. God is above
Yeah,
everything.
see, I
God
don't-
is above